Breaking news from the United States Patent and Trademark Office. SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment have filed for 3 known trademarks: Twisted Tiger, Uproar, and Tigris. Now, when those words come to mind, what do you think of? I don't know about you, but the first thing I think of is Busch Gardens Tampa because it is African themed. And what ride is there that has a tiger theme? How about the no longer operating Gwazi? This massive dueling wooden roller coaster that has just been sitting there for several years that people have been saying forever would make a great RMC. And Twisted Tiger. What 3 roller coasters do we know that have the word twisted in it? Twisted Colossus, Twisted Timbers, and Twisted Cyclone. What do they have in common? They're all by Rocky Mountain Construction. Every single one of those is a redo of an old wooden roller coaster that the parks gave a new name that is used to represent the new twisting steel of the new track with the old name and theme of the original. So take Gwazi, which you have tiger and lion, and what do you get but Twisted Tiger? I'm not saying that RMC Gwazi is confirmed, but I am pretty optimistic after this. Typically, a park files trademark for a name when they have an upcoming ride planned. Busch Gardens wouldn't be filing these 3 trademark names unless they knew something was going to happen with them. Now, don't be confused saying that these are 3 different rides that have been trademarked. Often what happens is they file a trademark for a couple different names and end up using one of them. For Carowinds, for instance, Fury 325 and Centurion were trademarked. For Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Tempesto and Diavolo were trademarked. For Busch Gardens Tampa, Cheetaka and Cheetah Hunt were trademarked. Now, for a possible RMC Gwazi, we have Twisted Tiger, Tigris, and Uproar. Now, diving in a bit deeper to these, we know that Gwazi is a dueling wooden roller coaster. The name Twisted Tiger is singular. So, initially, that might mean that we are looking at a single roller coaster, maybe in the style of Storm Chaser, where it used to be dueling, but they used the entire structure to be converted into one layout. Or they could go the Twisted Colossus route and take the 2 separate sides and combine them together. Or a third option is that there is another trademark out there that maybe has or hasn't been filed yet by Busch Gardens that is something like Wicked Lion or something like that, which would be the trademark name for the other side. So it is very possible that if they are planning on RMCing Gwazi, they could have 2 separate names for both sides. Although the name Uproar almost sounds like the name that would just be used for one coaster or 2 sides but one ride. If they went with Twisted Tiger though, I would guess that there's either another trademark name out there that would represent the lion side, or they're just planning on converting it into one ride. Talking about the Gwazi layout though, I feel like this ride does not really lend itself to combining into one layout. So much of the structure is intertwined because they have all these crossovers, and the structure is just so huge. I mean, RMC, if anyone, could do it. I'm not saying it isn't possible, but I feel like there's just so much potential there for a dueling coaster. Now, I want to talk to the skeptics for a bit because when something like this happens, people have lots of questions. I myself have lots of questions, and we may not know the answers for a little bit, but here I'm going to try and do my best to explain. So first of all, are these trademarks legit? Yes, you can go to the United States Patent and Trademark Office and search them yourself. The trademarks have been filed. They are not fake. Now, are all of the trademarks going to be used? Likely not. I would say one of them will probably end up getting used. Do we know for sure that this is going to Busch Gardens Tampa? No. But we can assume that it is going to one of the SeaWorld parks. But like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the only one that makes logical sense is Busch Gardens Tampa because it has that African theme. A name like Twisted Tiger would not fit at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. And a SeaWorld park? No, there's no way. So Busch Gardens Tampa, I would say like 95% chance that's where it's going. Gwazi has been sitting there for several years. It does not look like it would be in any sort of shape that they could just RMC it. Like it's just been sitting there rotting, right? Well, that may be, but remember that RMC has used both steel and wood on their hybrid coasters. For Twisted Timbers, for example, much of Hurler's layout was really low to the ground that they ended up just scrapping sections of it and rebuilding it using wood. You look at that first turnaround, that's all new wood. So if a section of Gwazi isn't usable, they can just level it and start from the ground up. They can also use new wood to reinforce certain sections. And then you have parts like Storm Chaser. Remember, that has an all-steel layout. So it is also possible that they could compensate and use steel structure to Gwazi if they felt it needed it. So I'd say it is doable. I know everyone was saying for years there's no way Gwazi would ever be RMC'd, and I was one of those people. This really caught me by surprise. I was not expecting this, especially in the financial situation that SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment is in. I'm wondering, where is all this money coming from? And I have a theory on that. Because between this and the 300-foot tall attraction that is supposedly going to Busch Gardens Williamsburg in a few years, these right here would be two very big expenses. Where is the money coming from? Here's what I think. SeaWorld as a whole is not doing very well right now. It's pretty well known at this point that other companies are looking at purchasing their parks or just dissolving SeaWorld as a whole and rebranding everything. Now, keep that in mind as I use the following analogy. When you go to sell your house, what do? Would you buy a house if it were just in terrible condition and it looked awful? When you're trying to sell your house, you spruce it up and you make it look really nice because you want to make it look good for potential customers and buyers. Now apply that to Busch Gardens. If you're looking to buy a theme park that you're not 100% satisfied with how it's looking, which right now Busch Gardens Tampa has 3 non-operating rides, it's very possible that an investor could say, hey, we want your park, but you gotta do something about that first. Either reopen the rides or give us something new. So Busch Gardens says, okay, what if we add a new roller coaster which fixes one of the currently non-operating rides and gives a new attraction that is guaranteed to be a huge success? That is my theory. I suspect that the Busch Gardens and SeaWorld parks are probably going to be owned by a new company. And so that's why they're putting so much money into these parks, especially since the Busch Gardens parks for SeaWorld are where all the money's coming in from. Those parks are doing very well, much better than the SeaWorld parks. So I think this is something we should keep our eye on within the next few months. If Busch Gardens Tampa is your home park, I would start paying a bit more attention to Gwazi. See if you see any sort of workers out there, maybe surveying the site or starting to strip off some wood structure. Again, it may not happen for a little bit. We may not see this coaster actually open until 2020. I would be kind of surprised if this were a 2019 project. It would be doable. It's still early enough that if they started right now, they'd be able to do it. But more than likely, it probably would be 2020. Cobra's Curse came in 2016, so that would be 4 years later than a new roller coaster would open. That sounds about right. But I also wouldn't get too excited about this because at this point, the most we can do is speculate. This is just in the rumor stage. A trademark is a big deal, but there's so much up in the air. There's so many moving parts to this whole thing. It's a lot to take in. So I would just say keep your eye on it. Don't get too excited yet. But those are just my thoughts on the trademark filing by SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment. Let me know what you think of all of this. If you agree with what I've said, if you disagree, if you want to add anything, you can let me know down in the comments below. And of course, stay tuned for more rumor videos coming soon to Coaster Studios.